What's good, DWA fam? This is Jared. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Done With Adulting Pod.
Okay, we're back.
Back again.
Always back, another week.
Yeah, how are you?
Pretty good. You know, I was saying to you earlier, my schedule is kind of weirdly and dramatically filling up now that everyone's vaccinated.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's the thing about summer. I totally forgot because last summer we were no plans in the house, but like my summer schedule is already like booking up every single week. Yes,
like my entire summer is basically planned, and I'm just like...
That's like before COVID, I did not like that. And now we're back to it. And
yeah.
And it just, to me, it makes the summer seem like it just flies by.
Flies by,
like
yeah.
Kind of trash, but...
It's just weird because we haven't made plans for so long, and now all of a sudden I have plans literally every weekend. I'm just like a little overwhelmed by it, but I guess it is what it is. Weddings, so many weddings left over.
A lot of weddings got pushed from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyways.
We'll figure it out.
I guess so. Really excited about today's episode.
Yeah. So I texted you the other day. I'm like, yo, I'm proud of us. We had some dope topics for the past few weeks.
Yeah, we have.
And we have some more dope topics coming up. And I definitely think this is definitely going to be one of the favorites or one of the top ones. So
yeah, for sure. Definitely in light of like it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we want to obviously bring that forward. And I feel like what I'm excited about today's guest is because it's a friend and
the homie.
And I feel like it's so beneficial for people to just, one thing that we try to do with our guests is bring on just regular people who are also regularly adulting. So it feels like, you know, if this is something that you are going through or if this story resonates, it's like,
yeah,
you're not the only one.
Yeah. And I think that he's going to like, yeah, he's my homie. He was in my wedding.
Do the intro.
So yeah, I was in his wedding. He was in my wedding. Went to Stonehill together. Great guy, great human being. He was going through a lot of stuff. And I mean, I knew we've known each other since 2009. That's 12 years. Yeah. And I've never personally knew everything that you were mentally going through.
I know. I feel like I'm going to be like mind blown by this.
Yeah, but it just like goes to show you that even like the people closest to you are always going through something. I mean, even in our group chats in the past, like once every few months, like somebody would put in the group chat like, yo, I love y'all, yada, yada, get all sentimental, you know what I mean? But like it never actually, I guess, hit home until you explained to me in the group about what was going on with you. So like, yeah, my man.
Anyways, welcome to the show.
His name is James Hodges. I never call him James. It's crazy. I never call you James. I only call you Hodges.
I've never heard anyone call you James, I guess.
Yeah.
Except Jess, maybe.
I call them something totally different. But yeah, my man James Hodges.
Welcome.
How are you doing?
Thank you for the love. I really do appreciate it, yo. Like that's so true with our group chat. Like we would never like take in when someone says like I love you guys and like resonate with that.
We would be like, yo, is everything okay? And everybody was like, yeah, it's good. We just want to let you know. And then it's
that's
on to the
so
next
cute. I wish I could see your group chat. I want to be in it. Just kidding.
And people say like men friend groups don't share emotions or don't share love with each other. But I think as we grow and get older, and as this generation, I think that's starting to change.
For sure.
Yeah, we definitely do it in our own different ways. I've realized that like we all have different ways of expressing love to one another and just connecting.
Yeah.
And I've learned just from putting aside my own judgment sometimes that sometimes I'm able to receive that love and not basically prevent myself from receiving it. Because that's what I was doing when in the story that we're about to get into, this journey.
Yes.
Well, let's get
ever
into
going.
It.
Well, yeah, just give us a little background about you first, who you are, what you do for work, your new
how you
dad.
were raised, where you born, everything. Yeah.
Man,
where do you start?
Yeah, where do I start? It's I kind of like, I'm James Hodges. Some people call me Hodges. Some people call me James. Some people even know me as Blair. That's my name. My name is James Isaac Blair Hodges. So like I have a lot of different things people call me, but I've always seen it as love from people, you know. And like I'm an analyst / financial advisor. I work in Boston. I used to do that hour-and-a-half commute. It
Same.
will be a
Yeah, 'cause you're
3-hour
far- you're far
commute.
away.
Yeah. So people that struggle, they know about that. But let's start when I realized that something was wrong. And like if I get emotional, it's all out of
Safe
just
space.
love and happiness. You know,
Let
like
it
it's
out.
not that I'm still struggling. It's just that I'm allowing myself to feel my emotions because that's something that I wasn't doing in my past.
Mm.
So when I realized something was wrong was when my mom was struggling with her own issues. And as a kid, when I'm growing up at seeing my parents and trying to be everything like my two parents, seeing my mom or my dad struggle was devastating to me because I put these people on a pedestal. I looked up to them. And
They're like superheroes.
Say again?
So they're like superheroes.
Yeah, exactly. They're like superheroes to me. And I wanted to be like that person. So seeing my parents struggle and my mom especially struggle, it was like a shock to my whole world, like just shattered.
So like what around time period was that?
That was like October of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, October of 2019.
And struggle mentally or like in what type of way?
Mental struggles. Yeah. Just the stress of life, not dealing with past trauma. Yeah. And that's her story. So I gotta let her share that for her story.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing that, I thought I was going to be okay. You know, like I thought I was like, no, James, this happens. People go through things. Like it's going to be okay to strive through it. And like I was doing well with that. You know, just forgetting about what actually was going on, allowing myself to be engulfed by work, allowing myself to be engulfed by life, going out, drinking, having fun, playing video games. People know me, friends know me. Like I love playing video games. There's never a time that I wasn't playing video games in my life. I remember the very first time I got introduced to video games, my uncle, I love him. It was PlayStation, the original PlayStation.
One PlayStation, just the PlayStation.
And he bought me Oddworld, and I just loved that game. I was just a gamer. So, like, I was just enjoying life. And then there was one day I just didn't have the strength to get out of bed. And go to work. And do the same bustle.
Can you describe, like, because I feel like, right, there are days where we all feel like that. Like, it's a joke. People put memes up about, like, how you wake up and you're like, do I need this job?
Right.
So how could you tell that it was a different kind of didn't want to get up as opposed to our regular, you know, adulting, is this what I have to do every day for the rest of my life?
Honestly, in the moment, I didn't know it was different than any other moments of like, hey, like, get yourself together, James, like, just go to work, do the grind, like, it'll be okay, you know? I didn't know it was different. And looking back at it, I can realize how it was different. But I just didn't like where I was working. There was a lot of issues that happened at work. One, I was overworked. I had over 115 clients compared to some of my analysts that had 50. And I had this mindset that this was great. Give me all the clients. I can prove myself. I can go out and show you guys I can handle this. And I did that to a certain extent for, I want to say 3 years. But there were certain things that that dropped off. Some of my work wasn't as best as it could because I was working really, really hard. And I took pride in my work. So like when things went awry and things were wrong, I took it as a shot to myself. Like I wasn't good enough, that I need to do better. I need to figure it out. And I even kind of like catastrophized some things because mistakes kept on happening over and over again. So I was just like, I'm going to get fired. And I was just not happy with what was happening at work. And I just didn't think it was anything different than that day, you know? Like, it was just like, whatever, like, I don't feel like going to work. So I called in sick, you know? I didn't feel like going. And I had some vacation days coming up too. So I took some time to myself. I had a whole week off. So I was like, I'm just going to take off, recoup.
Some mental
Trying
health
to-
days.
Yeah, give the mental health days. Sometimes you got to do that. And when I came back from that vacation, it just got worse. It didn't get better.
In what way?
It got worse in terms of I was scared at opening my email and seeing all the requests and all the things I had to do because of the week that I took off. Like I was stressing about all the work that was coming up
Like
that I didn't even know that was there.
Anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety, exactly. And I just didn't want to open my laptop. I didn't want to look at it. I said, like, it's just going to be so much work. I'm going into a busy season. I took a week off. Why did I take a week off? Like, I was really catastrophizing in my own head. I was just sitting there in my own head, going through my thoughts and my feelings. And I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know how to stop that.
What were the ideas in your head? Like, I have to quit my job, or I have to find a new field, or like, what was in your mind, what was like the only solution? Or you're saying in your mind there was no solution. This was just your fate forever.
Right. So that's a good question. And like, I want to kind of like get to the details of where I decided to choose, like what I decided to do about it.
Okay.
Because I was having a lot of those thoughts in terms of, like I just didn't want to work. Should I quit my job? Should I not quit my job? If I do quit my job, I have student loans I need to pay, like all that stuff. Like those things happen. Like we just list our lives and things that will happen because we do things. So I was like, no, I can't quit my job. I gotta figure out something. And one thing that helped me manage my stress was video games. And that was a stress reliever for a very large portion of my life, even through college. Coming home or coming to a dorm room with a test, you just celebrate and play some video games because that's your reward system. You work really hard and you get a reward system. That's how I treated it. And to a certain extent, that made me feel better, where I was using that to help me go through life.
Yeah. You think that was suppressing any type of feelings?
Yes, it was not allowing me to deal with my emotions. It was not allowing me to process my thoughts.
Yeah. And
ask questions of why I'm feeling this way. And why do I feel like I can't quit my job? Why do I feel anxiety? And to a certain extent, like that helped for a little bit. And I pulled up my bootstraps. I worked through the month of December, through October, November, December. And I was fine. Perfect. Fine.
Go ahead.
Basically working through October through December. And one of the reasons why I was doing that was because year-end review was coming up. So I was like, yo, I got to get myself together. I'm trying to get a bonus,
Yeah, try to get that raise.
I have 115 clients, and I was putting like a lot of my happiness in getting that bonus and improving myself to this company. And January came around and review came around and I didn't get a bonus. And that was kind of like shocking to me, like I put in a lot of work, I put in a lot of effort, and I even went through some shit and I still didn't get a bonus.
Companies be trying to do that to you too. They just fry you.
Yeah.
Treat you like a dog.
They do treat you like a dog, and it's constantly like honestly just recognizing what's being done, and asking yourself if you want to continue to do it. So like in that moment, I kind of was like, yo, what needs to change? Where like I kind of took the responsibility. I said something needs to change where I need to work better, work more efficiently, work smarter. I need to start speaking up in meetings. I need to start asking more questions. Just to give you guys a reference, I have a master's in accounting, and I made a switch 4 years ago from accounting to finance. Some people might think that switch is pretty easy, but it's really not that easy. And the funny story is that when I knew I was done with accounting, I learned as much as I could from it. My supervisor was leaving her job too and going to a different position. So I was like, great. You know, like I can talk to my supervisor, I can get a recommendation from her, I could tell her how I feel and say hey, I wanna leave accounting and do something else. Can you give me options of where I can go to, where I can transition to? And I told her that, and she was kind of shocked about it, which every boss is, you know. Sometimes they think everything's perfect and it might not be. And I kind of like had built this relationship with her over the years I was at this company. Like I've used her car to move furniture and so forth. So I told her, hey, I want to do this job at Mercer. That's the company I currently work at. And I want to do this financial analysis and be a financial advisor. And she told me that I couldn't do it, that I don't have the skills to do it. And I was kind of shocked by that, you know, that I kind of considered her as like a friend and a mentor, and she was telling me that I couldn't do it. So I honestly sucked it up, took the comments, and I told myself I'm gonna prove you wrong, and I did prove her wrong. I got that very job that she told me that I couldn't get. I used that anger and that determination to get that job. So when I got into that job, I kind of was like, so now what? Like, I got what I wanted. So now what? Like I proved her wrong. Mm-hmm. Now it's just like, okay, James, now you go in and do what you usually do. Figure it out. Ask questions. Put yourself in tough situations. And I would try to put myself in tough situations, and I realized that I would get so much anxiety to being perceived wrong or dumb or unintelligent because I had lots of questions. It was going from an accounting language to financial language. And I was learning about indexes and benchmarks and the S&P 500. And like, I've heard these things before, but I didn't know what they were and how they related to my work. And it was just it was hard for me to ask questions because I was scared that people would think that I was inadequate to do this work. Mm-hmm. So fast forwarding back to 2020 of January.
Okay, I was like, okay, pre-COVID still. We're not into COVID yet. Okay.
Pre-COVID, not into COVID. I was like, something needs to change. And I'm talking to my wife about this. And I was like, you know what? I play video games a lot and I don't really need that. Like, it's not really helping me. You know, it's not teaching me anything new. It's not really progressing my career and where I want to go. So I asked my wife, I said, hey, take these away from me and don't give them back to me. And that's going to allow me to focus on my career and myself and getting that better. So she agreed with that. She was happy because
she was like, finally, my dream come true.
Exactly. To hang out with the because if anyone knows that
she's like the only other thing. Yeah.
Playing video games, and we sometimes I'd be like, just we wanted to hang out. I'm like, I'm gonna be gaming. My boys are texting me. I gotta jump out of this copter and kill some dudes. Oh man, but she was happy, and it worked. It worked for a little bit. But what I realized what I was doing is that I was spending more time from home. I was drinking more. I was being more out and about at bars, restaurants, clubs. I was saying yes to anything that involved drinking. And I realized I was getting drunk more. You know, like there's more times that I couldn't drive my car home from the T station. And I had to get picked up. And it was just like I had this mentality like, hey, I'm just going to have a couple of drinks. And a couple of drinks turned to a lot of drinks and me being out till 2:00 in the morning.
Of course.
And
so it's like you went from one thing to the other.
Exactly. It felt like that, but I didn't realize that. So then COVID hits in March, right?
Can't go out.
We're hearing that I have to work remotely. I can't go out. I can't socialize with my friends. I'm like, what am I going to do? My life is over. Like, I don't have video games. I can't just play video games now because that's taken away. And I can't go out and drink with my friends because that's what I enjoyed and what I wanted to do. And then I was like, Jessica, hey, like, we're going to be locked up for I don't know how long. Can we bring these video games back? You know, like, I'm going to be bored. And she said, yes. I was like, perfect. Whatever. So the first day, I remember gaming for like hours. It's like I never left, I just picked right up where I left off, just gaming for hours, spending all that time gaming. But this time it was like more excessive. And I was gaming after arguments. I was gaming after when I felt bad at work. I was gaming after stressful events. And I didn't know why. And then to a certain point, gaming wasn't enough. Then I was getting high during gaming. I was smoking weed, and it was amazing. I'm not lying. All this is truth. I'm gonna tell you my truth, and this is my truth. And it worked for a little bit. I was like, perfect. Yeah, let's game and high. And like this
sounds like a vibe.
Mood. Yeah, it was a
throwing some wine.
I loved it. And the times I would get high, I would have this sense of clarity, that I can problem solve quicker, that I can see things for what they actually were. There's one thing I noticed when I was during this COVID time is that I was watching the show called Dark on Netflix. It's like a German show, and it's about these kids going missing.
Such a good show.
Oh, it's an amazing show. And I was solving this show as I was watching it. I was literally pointing out, this person's not the bad guy, because the way they portrayed it in the show and the movie, they make it's so obvious they want us to make it the bad guy. So like, he's definitely not the bad guy. Say again?
They want to throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, I was catching that stuff, and I was like, man, where's this coming from? Like, I wasn't able to do this with Game of Thrones. Like, shit, I was just immersed by everything in Game of Thrones and confused. So I was like, like, is it the weed? Like, is it the weed that's making me do this? So I was just like, interesting. I just took that as a note, just a mental note. And then I kept on progressing through COVID times. We all know with George Floyd and what happened there. And I really took that really hard. It exacerbated a lot of my feelings from my past and how I felt in that moment. There were some days that I was so scared to run in my neighborhood, in a condo neighborhood that doesn't even go out to the regular street. I was so scared to run in the neighborhood because I was scared about how people might come up to me and ask me questions.
Same. I said that multiple times on this before. Same exact thing.
Like, I used to plan scenarios in my head things I would say.
Yeah, me too. I do that.
And like I was just so scared. And I was like, why am I doing this? Why do I feel that I need to prepare myself every single time that I'm going out? I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't understand why. So I went through the whole summer doing this song and dance, and alcohol got involved because video games, weed was enough, and alcohol needed to be that kicker. And I realized I was drinking a lot more than I even wanted to. Sometimes I wouldn't even stop, and it was tough. And I was like, something's wrong. Like, something's wrong. Something's off. I shouldn't be doing this stuff. And I didn't know how to stop.
So at this point was like, because we're in quarantine, and one thing we didn't mention was at this point, right, you and your wife are expecting. So you guys are being like even extra safe than the regular safe people in quarantine. And so
yes.
You weren't really seeing friends as much. Like, I feel like y'all's friend group gets together a lot. So you, like, pre-COVID. So you weren't really seeing each other. So really the only, and my question is, like, with your family too, like your immediate family, I don't know if you were seeing them. I guess I'm just wondering, like, were you the only one that was like, this is becoming a problem, or were other people saying this is becoming a problem?
Well, that's a good question. No one, so I was only interacting with just my wife at the time.
That's what I figured.
And a very important detail is that, yes, we realized that we were having a baby during COVID. And that was kind of hard to fathom because we didn't know what was going to come from COVID. So we were very scared about that. And we knew that we were going to keep it, but we were just catastrophizing everything. Like, is this gonna, like I even said, is this going to be the zombie apocalypse? I don't want to bring a baby crying into the zombie apocalypse. Like, that's how I felt.
I saw The Walking Dead.
Yeah, like I don't want that shit.
What was
I
his
was
name?
scared.
I don't know.
What
was his name?
Rick.
Rick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rick.
Rick had the baby. He had the baby.
He had a baby in the zombie apocalypse. He sure did.
So, as you know, like my mental state wasn't even solid at that point because I was already off thrown by the stressors from work and the stressors from family, right? So then COVID hit and I can't see any of the people that make me happy and that makes me feel better about myself. And then now we have a baby coming and I have no idea what's going to be the future.
Yeah.
So, and I also know that I have some issues in my past. I don't know what they are, but I need to get that better because we are products of our parents. We take the tools that our parents give us. And I knew something was wrong with me. And I didn't want to give that to Jalen. At the time, I didn't know the sex of the baby. So to answer your question on if Jess had conversations with me, she did not. She didn't know how to have conversations with me.
But like in retrospect, when you guys got to, getting your help, she was like, I noticed, but just didn't know what to say.
Exactly. She noticed, she just didn't know what to say. Exactly. So I want to fast forward to Tyler's wedding. So
what month was
Tyler
that?
got married in August.
Was it July?
No, it was August.
Okay. It was August. And obviously
this
that's
like the first
a lot
event.
of time.
This was like the first event that we went to.
Yeah.
After during COVID.
After
everything shut down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Jess and I planned, because Jess is like 7 months pregnant at this point, that she would sleep at her parents' house for a week because that was the incubation period for if you were infectious or not. And that she would sleep at her parents for a week so I could go to the wedding at Tyler and be in it and participate and not care about it. That's one of the things that I was so grateful that she gave me because I needed that. Also during that week, because Jess didn't like me smelling like weed, Jess didn't like me playing video games, I had the idea in my head like, whoa,
I'm about to turn up.
I'm about to turn up by myself. I'm about to find some things out. And that's why I planned. So I went home on Sunday. I had a brunch with my mom and some family, and we started talking about children of dysfunctional families and how that it might not be an alcoholic present, it might not be addiction present, but there's always a dysfunction within a family. And some of that dysfunction gets passed on to your kids. And you have to process that dysfunction before you can succeed in life. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what stuff do I have? What stuff am I holding on to that I haven't processed? I'm thinking that I'm fine and okay, but I'm like, am I holding on to anything that I haven't processed? Like
that conversation happened with your immediate family, like your parents.
Yes.
That's a huge deal that I just want to point out because I feel like that type of conversation doesn't happen enough in Black families.
Yeah. It's usually
very suppressed.
Taboo.
Yeah, it's very like deal with it. Even I can say in my family, that's how it is. Like I am the opposite of that. I try to get people to and my family makes fun of me. It's now a joke. They're like, don't talk to Asia. She's going to try to make you see your destiny or something. Like that's what they joke about. So, but I love that your family was even having this conversation.
Yeah, it was definitely that first good conversation, eye-opening about mental health and our tools that I got passed down to. And I just didn't know. So I just left that conversation and just went home. I had fun at the wedding, went home. And that Wednesday night to Thursday morning, I was gaming again. I was smoking. I was working. And my whole idea was that I needed to catch up on some work. And I would stay up all night because I could sleep home and get up late, And I'll finish my work. And I was like, I'll just game a little bit and smoke a little weed, drink too, and I'll be able to do all that, right? So with some of the gamers I play with, like I play with some young kids, 2 kids that are from Philly, and we're talking about this conversation of how to have a conversation with your white counterpart about Black issues, hence why affirmative action might not work, right?
I think I was playing with y'all.
Yes,
you game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jared games. COVID made Jared a gamer.
I don't hear about it.
So we start talking about like hey, affirmative action doesn't work, blah blah blah, and like I start breaking it down, like affirmative action, like what are we trying to do with affirmative action? We're trying to get Black people into better situations in life, but what is it targeting? Like this is what I was talking to my friends about. That what happens is that with affirmative action, the whole thing we like to give the perfect example is college tuition, right? And I asked my friends who live in Philly, the hood, I was like, how much does college cost? And they're like, it costs around like $50,000-$70,000 a year. I was like, yeah, something around that. I said, can you afford that right now? He's like, hell no, I can't afford that. And I said, are you even thinking about doing that right now? He goes, no, because it's out of my expenses. I can't afford it. Like my parents can't afford it. I can't afford it. I don't want to take out student loans. And I was like, exactly. So who do you think can afford that? He goes, I don't know, someone that has money. Middle class people can afford college. So what happens is that Black people from middle class go into college, and they get, because they can afford it, and they get this push to their career path, which is great, right? But what we want is to bring more Black people out of poverty. But what happens is because college is so expensive, they can't afford it. So the affirmative action that we want to work for poor people don't actually work for poor people because they can't afford it. And that's what I was trying to talk to them about. Like have the conversation around poverty, about what people can afford, poor versus middle class versus rich, instead of Black and white, because they'll be able to engage with that conversation than Black or white. Because sometimes when people have a Black and white conversation, they get very defensive because they feel like they did something wrong or so forth. Sometimes with me, I get the same way. Like someone trying to talk about Black issues, I used to get defensive.
It's an uncomfortable conversation, so people feel a certain type of way about it.
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to have. And then at that moment, the high kicked in. The high and the drunk kicked in. Boom. I'm at this clarity again, right? The clarity of where I was problem solving with the Dark series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Everything starts rushing into my head. Like, I know what Martin Luther King was trying to do. I know that Martin Luther King was trying to bring everyone together because that will better the human race. Then I was like, I know what the Matrix is about. The Matrix is about breaking down these unrealistic ideologies that we might have on reality, which are not really true, that keep us holding us down. And we want this red pill versus blue pill stuff. Like I was solving this stuff. I was like, oh my goodness.
Like, what did I smoke?
Like, what's happening? Yeah, what's happening? Like even the people on my chat, they're like, what the hell you were smoking? What you been smoking, James? Let me get some of that. I was like, yo, I don't know what's happening. And I just stopped talking because then my paranoia started to kick in. Because I felt like because I figured this stuff out, people were going to come and kill me.
What? That's how you actually literally felt?
Yes, because we're talking over Xbox,
something that can be reported.
People were listening,
the FBI,
and things like
CIA.
that. And I was like, I got paranoid real quick, so I took my headset off and I started walking. And I was standing in my room, just looking at this wall. It felt like forever, but it was probably like 5 minutes. And I was like, I could break through this wall. I punched this big old hole through the wall.
Nuh-uh.
And I was like, oh shit, what else can I do?
No.
So I walked downstairs and I looked at my front door. I was like, I'm gonna punch a hole through this front door.
No.
Punch as hard as I could. Blood splattered all over the door. I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again.
wait a second. We just need to stop right there because I have questions. You
Yeah.
remember this, like, because when this is happening, you're under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So it's amazing that, not amazing because this is obviously a very traumatic event that changed the course of your life, but
Yeah.
you remember, even in like a sober, lucid state, the intensity of those thoughts taking over your mind.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That is crazy. Did you break your hand?
No,
Oh.
I did not. Yeah.
So from there, what happened?
So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to do that again. So I open the door and go to my car. I'm like, I don't like this car. I don't like the way this car looks. I'm gonna change the way this car looks because I can do anything, right? This is what I'm thinking. I can do anything.
You feel like Superman.
Yeah. Close my eyes, open my eyes, my car was still the same. Close my eyes, open my eyes, my car was still the same. So I was like, okay, this is not working. Then I was like, let me try to open this door. That's not working because the car is locked. So then I started getting really scared. And I run back inside. And I run through this moment where I felt like I was walking up my stairs for forever, for a long period of time, like I was in hell, just walking up the stairs constantly. And then I found myself standing in my kitchen. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? My heart starts beating really, really fast. I start getting hot.
Are you having a panic attack?
I start getting scared. I think so. I don't know. So I go outside and I look up at the sky. I'm like, what's happening? What's that sound? What's that loud sound that's boom, 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 boom? What is that loud sound? Something tells me to take a breath. So I take a breath. I take another breath. Take a breath where that loud sound goes boom, 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 starts slowing down. And I was like, okay, I feel better. What am I going to do now? I got to tell someone. I got to tell someone what happened. So I start walking. So I'm walking down the street.
Is it dark out?
It's nighttime. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh no, now I'm stressed.
And I asked myself, where am I going to go? I don't know, James. Just keep on walking. Follow this white line that's on the ground in front of you because it's pitch black, darker than ever. So I start walking. And then I said, I want to run. I want to run fast.
Mind
so I
you,
start running.
this is on, what's that route?
106 by
know
Stonehill.
It's the main highway.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what it is.
And I'm running. And I see a cop car pull up right next to me slowly. And I'm in my head, I'm like, you're not going to do anything. I'm going to run right past you. I ran right past him. He didn't do anything. So then I keep on running, cars driving by, nothing's happening. Then someone stops. Says, hey, are you okay? I'm like, you know what? You're the first person that stopped and asked me if I was okay. Man, you're a cool dude. And this car is like busted. This car is like a rust bucket. He's just a nice guy. He asked me if I'm okay. I was like, no, I'm doing great. Why do you ask? He goes, well, you're barefoot and in your boxers running down the street. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. He goes, where are you going? I'm just trying to go home. So he stops talking to me. I start running some more. And then I hear a voice saying, where are you going, James? So I'm going home. He goes, what about Jess and your son? And I'm like, you're right about that. I'll miss them if I go home. So I turn around and start walking back. And at this time, the high starts coming down, the drunkenness stops happening. And I realize what I've done. And I'm like 2 miles away from my house at this moment. So I got to run back.
You don't even know how long you were out there for.
No, I don't. So I'm running back, ducking through bushes, not as confident as I was before running down the street. And I go home and I call my parents. I go, yeah, I need you guys to come up. I had a mental break. I don't know what happened, but I need to get help now. And my parents came up and asked what happened. I explained everything what happened.
How far away do they live? Was it quick?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half, yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Yeah. So I explained to them what happened. And they asked me what I was using, what I was drinking, and everything. And I explained all of that. And I said, I want to go to rehab, and we're going to figure out what rehab I need to go to, because this cannot happen. Like, I'm thinking that I have a kid coming, I have work, I have all these things I want to do, and I need to get help. So the next day, I felt that same clarity that was high, it wasn't high anymore. It was that peace. And I started talking to my parents about what happened last night. And I said, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't enough, you know. A lot of stress from the George Floyd incident was weighing on me. My dad asked why. I said, well, as a kid, I always struggled fitting in. When I grew up, I had a lisp. In third grade, we had to do these assignments to read out loud. And for me, I struggled with reading. I stuttered real hard, got made fun of. And in that moment, I was like, I'm never reading again. I'm going to do anything I can so I don't read. So I told myself that I love math, and I started loving math, started doing math, started being good at math. And I changed myself in that moment because of what the kids were teasing me about. So then in middle school, I remember them talking about the way I acted. They said, James, you're not black. You're an Oreo. You're black on the outside, white on the inside.
Same, bro. I got the same comments. So I feel you.
And that hurt. That hurt deep.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I'll act white for you, because I don't want to feel this hurt ever again. So I changed myself to fit their perspective of me. Then when I was home with family, extended family, not immediate family, they would make fun of me, saying that I wasn't black enough.
Oh my God, this is my life. Go ahead.
And I struggle with that too. Because at first I go to school and I'm not white enough for you. Now I go home and now I'm not black enough for you. So in that moment, I changed myself to be black enough for you. Listen to rap. Bag my pants. Didn't really be myself. I was something for them. And I survived like this throughout my whole career of going to school. And
College
I was
included,
sharing this.
Right?
Say again?
It's college included, right?
College included. And college was tough for me because I was put in a situation where my black friends and my white friends had to interact with each other. And I didn't know how to act. So I would do outrageous things to make myself feel comfortable and make other people around me feel comfortable. There's one time, Jared hates the story, I'm going to tell it. There's one time junior year, we're all sitting in the common room during the summer. And this was like the first instance where all my black friends and my white friends were co-mingling. And I didn't know what to do. I can't act white, you know, like then my black friends are going to question, like, why are you acting like that? And I can't act black. And my white friends will ask me, why are you acting like that too? So then, you know what I did? I screamed out the N-word, the hard ER, just to make people laugh. And that didn't make people laugh. My black friends was like, what the hell? My white friends kind of chuckled a little bit because they probably felt uncomfortable. And that's where some of the things I was doing to protect myself.
You were there, Jared, for that?
No, I wasn't there for that one, but I remember the story.
So I'm telling my dad all this stuff, and because we're sitting in the living room, and I'm telling him like I never felt like I was enough. And he stopped me and said, James, I want to tell you something because I haven't told you this in a long time. That I'm proud of you. That I'm proud of the man you became. I'm proud of the life you built for yourself, the career you built for yourself, the wife you had. That's something I was living for. That acceptance. That immediately when he said that, I started crying. Because I played football for my dad. And when I got hurt my sophomore year, I was very devastated because I thought that my life was over because my dad would never be proud of me because I was going to make the NFL. And I struggled with that. And that was probably the start of my drinking, where I was drinking cases of beer every weekend and trying to fit in. So getting that from my dad was a huge step for my recovery, for myself.
Yeah, I want to talk about when you went to rehab. Like, what did you learn from that? What were the things you guys did in there? And then how do you think it's helped you since then?
Yeah, and I feel like my follow-up to that is this clarity that you have about like that moment being that and like this realization of you changing yourself for other people. Did all of that come to fruition for you when you went to rehab? Like, is that something you took away from it that you just didn't realize you were doing until rehab? Or you know what I'm trying to say? Or did you kind of know that was going on?
So some of the things that I learned from rehab is how we deal with our feelings. That you can literally be addicted to anything. And that you have to be careful with how we cope with our feelings. That we have to start processing our feelings instead of suppressing them. And throughout the years, that addiction is really the symptom of the underlying problem. The underlying problem is that trauma that you've dealt with in your past. And what happens is your trauma happens in your childhood. And then that trauma happens, and then more trauma gets stacked on top of it. Then more trauma gets stacked on top of it, and stacked and stacked and stacked for years and years.
Domino
and years.
effect.
Exactly. And what you have to do is pull all that trauma away and get to that base trauma and solve that problem. Because that problem was making me become an addict.
That was the black versus white thing, specifically.
Yes, that was one trauma.
Yeah.
And another trauma is my dad was overly critical of me.
Sure.
As a kid, like I could go. It's funny. We might need to do part 2 for this.
I was literally thinking that. I'm like, yeah, might need a part 2.
We might need to do a part 2 because there's a lot. Like I have so much to talk about the experiences in rehab, the experiences outside of rehab, and who I am today, because it all connects and it all matters.
Yeah, well, I guess this episode is more about the mental health and just like the awareness on it. So next time we definitely could talk about the rehab aspect of it.
Definitely part 2. And I also just want to say, and Jared can attest and agree with this, like I feel like even knowing you now, because when we were in college, like I was close with Jared and y'all's friends, but you and I specifically weren't super close.
Right.
And I would always say to Jared, like, I just can't figure Hodges out. I was like, I don't know. And Jared would be like, you don't like him? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know who he is. Like, and I just remember always feeling like not confused, but like wondering how you all were friends, just because I noticed that you were a lot different from the rest of the group just as an individual. Right. And of course, with us not being close, I probably saw like super surface level in the middle of the party, But like now hearing this part of your story, it literally is all just, it all makes complete sense.
You can't judge anybody.
You cannot
Don't
judge
know what
anybody.
anybody's going through. You don't know, like you said, the traumas, the past or the present. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know how they were raised, anything like that.
It's crazy, but like I feel like the hurtful thing is like at that age in college, 18 to 22, half of us are getting freedom for the first time. The other half are trying to figure it out as well. And everyone's getting wasted every day.
Yep.
And we have no sense of just even being aware of ourselves like the way we do now at late 20s, early 30s. So it becomes even more traumatic, especially Black people going to predominantly white institutions, because the same things that you went through in your childhood just carries over to college. But now it's more hurtful because people are more brave and they're saying ridiculous things. And it's like not like childhood bullying, you know, it's like 18-year-old bullying. Yeah. So it's just crazy. I say all that to say I appreciate you telling your story. We definitely need to do a part 2 because like, wow.
There's still more to get to.
But yeah, I would love to like kind of like as we start to wrap up, just ask like if you had to give like one piece of advice to somebody who maybe is not sure, like maybe somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, I smoke weed every day. Or they're like, well, I like to have a drink every day. And you're just like,
or they're just having mental health issues.
Yeah, kind of what would be your number one first step or tip or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess the first thing is the awareness, right? The awareness of not liking where you are in life, what's happening in life, your current situation, and so forth.
Acceptance.
And exactly. And that awareness will help you grow as an individual. You need to be aware of your fears, your traumas, your struggles, what pushes your buttons, what people you don't like. Mm-hmm. All those things will help you grow into the person that you really want to be. Mm. And I had to learn that because I was very judgmental to everyone at a certain extent because it just consumed me, you know? Like it just made me be a judgmental person. And I didn't take time to listen to what people were saying and understand what people were saying and be open-minded. And the reason why I couldn't do that is because I wasn't understanding of myself. I didn't love myself. I wasn't open with myself. I couldn't express myself. I didn't want to talk about my feelings. I hated the way I looked. I hated how much money I had. I hated how much debt I had. I hated everything about myself. And what I learned is that I needed to fix myself before I can help anyone else. Mm-hmm. It's the great analogy that they say in AA is that you can't give something that you don't have. So if you're trying to love someone and you don't love yourself, you're not showing that person love.
Even though you think you are.
Even though you think you are, which is not wrong, right? Because that's your process. You need to go through that process to learn how you are and learn your traumas and these things, these values that we might need to let go, you know, and that keep on holding us back and not wanting to connect with one another. You know, those judgments that you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't want to listen to me. You know, I used to have that all the time where I would have conversations with my white counterparts and I would look for ways to make them feel dumb because I felt dumb. You know?
Wow.
And it took me to having an open mind and listening to what they're having to say and solving all those insecurities about my intellect, about the way I looked, about my color of my skin. Everything. I had to solve all those things for me to actually listen to what someone's saying. And then that clarity came to me. And now I'm working on just holding on to that, growing. I always say this to Jess, it's progress, not perfection.
Amen.
And
I could definitely see the progress.
Yeah, you're gonna hear this first.
Once he came back from rehab, I was like, he was like a totally different person. Not totally different, but just her outlooks on life and just the conversations, totally different.
Yeah. I know how it feels when we don't get that love. I know how it feels when people aren't listening to me. I know how it feels to be rejected, to be not accepted, our situations might be different. These things, these experiences might be different. You might have trouble with heroin. You might have trouble with working out the gym. You might have trouble with anything, but our feelings, our emotions are always the same. Those are how we can connect with people, when we get in touch with our emotions. But what I realized is that I was so scared to share my emotion, my feelings, my experiences, that people can't learn from them.
Yeah, people hold it in. A lot of men do that.
And same thing with my parents.
A lot of black men do it.
Yeah, my parents would be so terrified to share something with me, to show me what's right and what's wrong. Oh, don't look at this. Don't look at this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Like they're trying to protect me out of like, hey, parenting, you know, like I understand that.
Right.
But what happens is that it hurts us because I don't learn from their past experiences. I used to tell my friends that I know nothing about my dad because my dad never talked about his life.
Yeah, I feel that with both my parents. I'm like, who are you guys?
And like when I figured out my dad smoked weed, I was like, huh? You smoke weed? What?
It's like a new revelation.
And I would just wonder, like, why don't you tell me these things? I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to make you feel better. But that's what they think. They think they're bad people if they share that. But I digress. So
no, we all have part 2. We need to schedule part 2.
Yeah, no, we definitely appreciate you coming on, telling your story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like we said, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so we just wanted to get something like this out there for anybody who is struggling, and hopefully, I mean, you just sharing your experiences will help them if they're going through something.
Yeah,
but we're definitely going to bring you back, speak a little bit more about what went on in your experience with rehab, especially, I mean, you went away to rehab when your wife was pregnant, so
yeah,
that's like
that's tough. A part 2, dude.
Yeah,
don't give them any teasers. Yeah. They're gonna have to listen to this one and then come back for part 2. A lot of
tough decisions needed to be made, but
a lot of tough decisions.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
I would say plug what you want to plug, but you're not even on social media anymore like that. So
good for you.
Like this is the whole thing. Like I always say that if I'm meant to talk to you, then we will connect. Like I am on social media, but I'm on social media at my own time. Like I decide when I'm on social media. So I turned off all my notifications for social media and I choose when to go on social media.
All right, well, drop the Insta if somebody needs to DM you.
Yes. It's Hodger Badger 5. You're going to have to request me because I'm private.
It's okay.
But like, if you guys are strong with anything, I'm here to listen.
Yeah. Well, once we put this up, we'll plug it. We'll tag you.
Perfect.
All that information so people know where to find you. I mean, I feel like a lot of the listeners already know who you are, so
yeah, they might.
Yeah, you'll be good.
Hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate your story. Cannot wait for part 2. We're gonna get that on the calendar. And if you all like this episode, which of course you did, and this podcast, go ahead and hit subscribe and leave us a review. It helps so much, and we love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, hit us up on the Instagram, Done With Adulting Pod. Also on Twitter, Done WTH Adulting. Hodges, we love you.
Thank you. Love you guys,
homie.
man. Thank you.
No doubt.